Hey VC, what's up? It's me, yours truly. I am back to post a quick video here, actually to make a thread. Um, and this is going to kind of be a rip-off thread from the TV show TMS, or That Metal Show. For those of you who may not be familiar with that, it's a show that comes on, I think, a VH1 Classic. It's just kind of, they talk about hard rock, heavy metal. They have guests on there they interview and all that good stuff. So if any of you are familiar with that, who are big hard rock and metal fans, make sure you check that out. But they had this new thing they started doing the last few seasons at the very beginning of the show that they call the TMS Top 5. And basically what it is there's three guys that host the show, and there's a question that's posed. What are your favorite this? What are the best this? What are the, whatever, just like we do our threads here. And so each of the three guys, they've already done it ahead of time. They give their three answers. And so then there's 15 total answers on the board, and then they all kind of discuss it and figure out which of those they take to actually build the top 5 list. So they, debate and, all that kind of stuff. So it's really a cool thing, much like we've done here in the community for quite some time. But they posed a question the other day, and they put a number of answers that I just didn't think were right. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to do that with the BC here and put that thread out there and see what you guys think. And this is probably mostly going to be for people that actually like hard rock and heavy metal. If you don't, you might feel a little excluded in this thread, but would love to hear everyone's answers. But anyway, the question was, actually, let me not do that. Let me give you the premise of the question just to make sure it's 100% clear. So I think that's one of the things that it seemed like one of the guys misunderstood a little bit on the show. But the premise of the question was, if you were talking to a hard rock or metal virgin, someone that's never listened to that genre, has never really cared about it, just never checked it out, what would be the 5 albums that you would recommend to them to try to get them hooked into metal? So that's the question. Now the question is not what do you think are the 5 best metal albums of all time, and get those 5 and go show them. Because the idea is kind of, like for me, for example, Slayer's Rain and Blood is one of the greatest thrash albums of all time. But if you take Slayer's Rain and Blood and go give it to someone who's never heard or has never cared about metal or hard rock, they're pretty much going to say it's a bunch of noise. I mean, for the most part, they're going to say it's just a bunch of noise. So again, it's not asking you what are your favorite metal albums, or what do you think are the best metal albums that you should go show someone because they are the best, but it's saying what are the albums that you would give to someone who knows nothing about metal or hard rock that you think would really give them the best chance of liking the genre, coming into the genre, and just kind of starting to take a look at it, that type of thing. So I just want to clarify that part. So again, if you're throwing stuff out there like Machine Head and I said Slayer and Metallica's Master of Puppets and all that kind of stuff, you're probably on the wrong track to the question. Just make sure it's clear. So anyway, I picked out, I guess, 5 and just one honorable mention that I thought I would throw in there of the records I think would have the highest likelihood of drawing someone into the hard rock and metal world. So let me kind of go through what those are. Let's see here. Number 1, I started out with AC/DC's Back in Black. I think that would be a great one to get people really drawn in. I mean, AC/DC has never changed I think they're one of the, if not the greatest hard rock band of all time. I refuse, and I hate people call them metal. I've said it over and over because they're not. But I think they're one of the greatest hard rock groups of all time. I think they're also one of the most consistent bands of all time. As I've said in videos before, you can take any song off of any AC/DC album and move it to any other AC/DC album, and pretty much it'll fit in place, and you won't even know that it was taken from an album 15 or 20 years before, prior, or after, or whatever the case may be. So extremely consistent band. And I think with Back in Black, with songs like Back in Black and You Shook Me All Night Long, I mean, I've been in nightclubs and heard both of those songs played before and seen people dance to them and everything else. So I think this would be a great album to get your hard rock slash metal version into the genre, just because there is a very, very nice, I think, unintended crossover element within this album that really draws people in. So AC/DC's Back in Black would definitely be one. The second one I would go with would be Black Sabbath's Paranoid. Much for the same reasons as AC/DC. You know, when you have songs like Iron Man and Paranoid, even War Pigs kind of thrown in there, again, they're just some very catchy riffs that really, it just kind of, you know, Black Sabbath in general, the early Black Sabbath, they really played on that blues scale, which oftentimes can really kind of, I think it's kind of an easier thing for people to catch on to, so to speak. So I think this would definitely be another very good album to introduce to someone who's never heard or cared about hard rock or heavy metal. I mean, I think the riff from Iron Man alone is just kind of one of those catching pieces. Another one here too, which goes back to what I was saying at the very beginning, as you guys have heard 1,000 times, Master of Puppets is the greatest thrash album of all time. In my opinion, probably the greatest metal album of all time. But if I was trying to get someone hooked into metal for the first time, or hard rock, I'm going to throw Metallica's Black Album at them. Much more melody friendly, I think, for a virgin metal ear than Master or Ride the Lightning or Kill 'Em All. And I don't know, I mean, just for the exact same reasons that this album caused such a stir when it came out. It's just the melodies and rhythms and everything else just had such a crossover appeal to them that you know, it brought in a lot of people that had never cared about a thrash metal band, which is kind of the exact same reason why I would recommend this. I know I mentioned the video before, but I think a great way this is summed up, and I really kind of paraphrase it down here, was the guy that was talking about one of the reasons why it alienated so many Metallica fans was because they now owned the Metallica album that their 12-year-old sister was coming in their room asking them to borrow. And, you know, prior to that, with Master and Ride and everything else, that just wasn't something that kind of anybody else in your family cared about except you. So, yeah, the crossover element of this was definitely a good album to draw in a hard rock or metal version. The fourth one I would pick would be Led Zeppelin To. I think that would be a great one to also introduce someone from the hard rock side of things. You know, Page and Plant, they've always been, you know, so anti that anything they did had anything to do with metal and blah, 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 which is fine. I mean, I would never classify them as a metal band whatsoever, but you can't deny the influence. I mean, metal is about energy, it's about power, it's about, you know, it's about adrenaline rushes. I mean, really is what it boils down to for me. And to say that Led Zeppelin was not bringing that to the table as well as anybody at the time, you mean, even those guys can't deny that. So I would say Led Zeppelin 2 would be another great record to bring in someone who's not familiar with hard rock or metal, just again because it's very bluesy, you know, a lot of rhythms that people could really connect with from stuff they probably heard in R&B or pop music or blues music, but you know, and without them paying attention, it can kind of drag them over to the hard rock side a bit. So I think this would be a great album as well. And then the last one, I'm going to go with Whitesnake. For a lot of the same reasons I mentioned the other ones too. You know, a lot of crossover hits with this. When you have stuff like Still of the Night, you know, Here I Go Again, Give Me All Your Love, Is This Love? I mean, those are all just very, very catchy songs that can capture someone who is a hard metal fan as well as someone who doesn't care about metal whatsoever. Just catchy rhythms, catchy, you know, vocals, just kind of the whole nine. So this will be another good one to really drag somebody in as well. So I mean, when you think about that, if you get someone liking the most crossover versions of a Whitesnake, Led Zeppelin, Metallica, Black Sabbath, and AC/DC, I mean, if someone starts spinning those wheels, I kind of have a pretty strong belief that that would be a good tug to lock them into really want to discover metal and hard rock. And as an honorable mention, so I know that was 5, and I'm going to throw this back up as another answer to a thread question, which is Def Leppard's Hysteria, and the same thing, you know, huge crossover appeal, and I think this album could be very, very good at getting people to hear melodies and hear the beauty of melodies behind electric guitars. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that this album would do in terms of bringing someone over to the hard rock side of things. Because I mean, it is just that their vocal melodies, the music itself, and everything else. It's just there's a beauty to the music, and I think it's easy to forget. You know, they're doing it with electric guitars and all of that, and that I think is one of the things that can draw someone over by having this as potentially one of the albums. This is my honorable mention there. So anyway, those are my answers. I think if I remember correctly, I should have jotted them down too, so I could remember. But I think the ones that they picked on the show, they picked AC/DC's Highway to Hell, which I could kind of go with that. I think Back in Black is a little more virgin-friendly, if you will. They also picked Metallica's Master of Puppets, which I thought was an absolute no. They picked Motorhead's Ace of Spades, which I'm still kind of iffy there too. Could work at the same time. I think, you know, I don't think you could hear Lemmy once or twice and just kind of automatically understand what he's about or take him in like that. But you know, everybody's different, obviously. And I think they picked Judas Priest's British Steel was one. Gosh, I can't remember what the 5th one was. But that was kind of their picks. Anyway, so that's kind of the question. Share your answers, guys. I'm really, really curious. And again, make sure you really stick to the premise of the question, because that's a very important piece. I honestly think if you're picking out your favorite metal albums and you're a metal fan, you're probably not sticking to the question. So anyway, let me know what you guys think, and we will talk to you soon. All right, take care, guys.